everybody. This is Susie Box again, and I'm here today with Candice, Louisa Daquin. She is one of my better friends, best friends. I have to, full disclosure, we know each other already, but she, for the first time, decided to submit to the short of it, and I'm so glad that she did. She's actually the forefront in the book. She's the first poet that's listed, so I'm really happy that she's doing this and here with me today. But let me tell you a little bit about her. Let me tell you a little bit about me first, in case you don't know me. Susie Box. I'm the editor of the short of it, and I have a blog called I Write Her. And that is short for My Humanity in Written Form. And let's see, the short of it is micro poetry and micro writing. And I started this, Candy, when was it? A couple of years ago? 3 years ago?
I think it was 3 years ago.
Okay. And I invited people who knew how to write very short, crisp, succinct type of poetry, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed myself. I produced one anthology that was a couple years ago that was called The Sound of Brilliance, because they were all brilliant. And then this year we are publishing the second volume, and this one is called Reflections and Revelations. And I love it. I love the book a lot, and I can't wait for it to come to fruition. Hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. That's going to be this year. Yes, it'll be this year. It's hopefully before the end of the month, actually, which is pretty close. Anyway, let me introduce Candice. Sorry, inside joke. You don't know what we're talking about right now, why I'm cracking up. But anyway, Candice is a psychotherapist. She also edits, she writes. She was the editor of Smitten. This Is What Love Looks Like, beautiful anthology produced a couple of years ago. It's an anthology of queer female poetry. I'm happy to be a part of it. Inclusiveness and kindness are her mantras. She blogs at featheredsleep.com. You can find much of her work. I've published a lot of published her work on my blog because I just love her poetry. That was actually how we met, because I found her blog on WordPress, and she's exquisite. You got to go read her. Anyway, like I said, she's been blogged here, and now she's here with me today, and I'm so happy. So, hi.
Hi. And it's okay to call me Candy, because all my best friends do, and since you're one of them, you can call me Candy, but I appreciate the name.
Good. Okay. So what am I going to ask you? I mean, it's like, I feel like I already
know you know everything. I know. No, let's just pretend we've never met before. So it's really nice to meet you. You have nice hair.
Oh, thank you.
Today, you look like you're tall.
You know what? The reason I did this, my hair's up today. I look like a Mennonite girl, actually. But the reason that my hair's up is I actually did something nice. I curled my hair. I thought, oh, this is going to be cool. Nah, I looked like a little page boy. It was hilarious. So I said, nah, that's not going to work. But
yeah, see, now I want to see. Now I want to see the curls.
It looks stupid. I'm not doing it. But I
know what you mean, though.
I was going to get my hair cut, but then I got my hair cut, like the picture that I put on Facebook.
Right, which was a lovely picture, by the way.
Well, thank you, but she did not get anywhere close to what that look was. So it looks stupid. Like I said, a little page boy. And I said, no, I can't do this. So
I have a lot of sympathy for you, because I once cut my fringe and it was wet, and I cut it to here, and then it dried and it went up to here, and I looked like Friar Tuck. So that was an interesting look for the next 3 months. I think I got a lot of use out of the hats that I never wore otherwise. So I can commiserate with you. We need to start figuring out how to get hair that works. It's not easy. I find just not cutting your hair and letting it grow, that works.
Well, it was either that, or the other day I was thinking, I'm going to buzz cut my hair. It's like I'm done with hair. I feel like I'm just going to shave it. And that's it.
I actually think you could get away with that because you're tall and glamorous. So you see, you could do that. Plus the tattoos as well. Look, you've got a tall woman with a buzz cut and tattoos. What does that remind you of? Oh, yeah. Every superhero woman that ever existed. Do it.
Okay, sure. We'll work on that. Mm-hmm.
And as you can tell, Susie and I talk a lot about poetry, not buzz cuts. But I did want to intersect and say that I'm very grateful that I've been included in this gorgeous anthology. It's quite an interesting phenomena for me because, as you know, I don't tend to write micro poetry terribly often. And you're very patient with me because I have a tendency to write extremely long poems that just go on and on and on. And that was my thing. I'm
But
probably a frustrated fiction writer.
that's a good thing though,
Poet.
because you seriously have a talent for being able to tell a story with, I mean, everything is a metaphor. Everything is literally it's like you're crawling down the rabbit hole. I love it.
It's true. Like this mosquito repellent balm, it's a metaphor. You know, we just have to figure out what metaphor it is. And that's kind of how I write and actually how I think. So it's been a good discipline, I guess, being friends with you, because although we're alike in a lot of ways, I think we're really different in some ways. And one of the differences is you are very succinct. And I've learned from that because I'm totally not. I'm very I think I'm out of control, man. You know, I just don't have any control. And so when I talk to you sometimes you're really planned and you're like, okay, we're going to meet at 10. And I'm like, but we can meet at any time, can't we? You know, and so it's been a good balancing act for me. And then, of course, I had the pleasure of editing a little bit and having a chance to look through the first book that you did and then writing the foreword for it, didn't I? And so I think being involved in that and obviously reading your blog more than reading anybody else's blog, and that's a true story right there, folks. I've come to appreciate short poetry, not just, you know, the typical forms, but actually just the value of saying less. And I think also as I've gotten older, I've valued the importance of saying less. I think it's something that happens as you get older. You realize you don't need as many words. I mean, would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that, because when I think about I think the reason it attracted me so much was in this age of social media and being able to read Twitter, and I'm even upset with Twitter going to more than 140 characters. It's like, what the hell? This was the whole point of Twitter, is to make it short and sweet, right? But I feel like our attention spans have changed tremendously too. So that was really a good way to help people focus on something, you know, a really meaningful bit, soundbite, whatever you want to call it.
I agree.
We have lost so much of our attention. We're all ADHD, it seems like.
I agree with you. And I think when I first met you, I was puzzled as to why you liked my poetry, because it was so different from the way you wrote and a lot of the people that you liked. But I could also see it because I began to understand that some of the people that were writing really short poems weren't necessarily saying less. They were saying as much as some of my 3-page poems. So it kind of taught me to, I mean, I still write really long poems, but that's just because I have like a diatribe within my soul. But, you know, I really begun to value them in a way that I didn't before. I think before I was very prejudiced because, interestingly, when I first started to see all the memes online, I was like, oh, this is some vacuous crap, you know, and I just really didn't respond to it at all. I felt like it was an ADHD society gone mad, and I didn't like that. And it was only when I started to sort of read some of the better poems, as opposed to the sort of round robin memes that we tend to get inundated with, some of the really excellent poems that were shorter, that I just thought, dang, she's got a point here, you know? And funnily enough, when I was reading through this anthology, my breath just kept getting taken away by some of the poems that you've included. I mean, there's some brilliant work there, and it's gorgeous. And so, you know, yes, I'm a reformed character. I'm going to start writing shorter poems on a regular basis, folks. Watch this space.
Awesome. I'm glad. That means you're gonna submit in July, right?
Hell yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
And
just keep in mind too, we're doing it a little different this year. I'm cutting it off at 52. Period.
Okay. I'll just bite all my nails off and then I'll try.
Okay,
I mean, honestly, when you read other people doing it, you realize it can be done, that it's a discipline, which is, I really hate the word discipline. I don't relate to that word. But on the other hand, I think it's beneficial. And you get to a point where you realize you can say so much in this short space of time. And I've just seen you keep publishing people like that and thinking, okay, then, you know, so maybe I'll just be one of those people, reformed characters, who manages to do it.
Well, I'm glad that you approve. Seriously. Not only
Well,
because we're friends, but just because
it's
I think
yeah,
that,
like honestly, even if we weren't really good friends, I'd love what you're doing because you have such a passion for it. You've brought out a form and you've kind of modernized it and brought it back into the world, but without sort of cheapening it. Because, I think sometimes when we rely just on the memes on Facebook, it's like, and you've done far more than that. And I like the fact that you mostly are on WordPress as well.
well, the thing is, it's because I want to do, I mean, I've said this from the very beginning. I started when I got on Facebook, sorry, WordPress. When I got on WordPress, I was just blown away by the magnitude that I was seeing of, I mean, just volumes and volumes. I mean, they got millions of website or accounts. And then I started reading the poetry and I was just blown away by really, it is a, what do you call it? It's a game of chance, honestly, for people to get read. And when they do get
Yeah,
read,
that's true.
they don't
Yeah,
necessarily get the recognition. So for me, it was more of, oh, wow, I love this. And I want
right.
other people to see it. And then when I saw after the first year, number one, discovering that I loved micro poetry and haikus and tankas and all those, I just, tetrax is another one of my favorites. Once I saw where my head was going, and then I really started to hone in on all the other people that were writing short poetry, I said, okay, I want to give these people some traction because they're
Right.
people that have like 100, 200 less followers sometimes, and they were really good. And I thought, no,
Right.
now that I'm starting to get a bit of a following, and now, I mean, it's not, I'm not like a Kardashian or anything like that by any means, but I certainly, 3,500 people is not too bad. Not
It
too
ain't too bad at
shabby.
all. It ain't shabby. And the truth is, what I applaud about what you've done is you're not, a lot of people, I think they go onto social media to promote themselves.
Mhm.
And what you did from the outset is you said, no, you know what? I'm going to promote other people. I'm still going to write and feel passionately about writing, but my real passion is promoting other writers. I
Mhm.
love that about you. I think it embodies the kind of person you are. I wish that more people sort of did that on social media because a lot of the time it's me, look at me. And it is that Kardashian mentality, which I think we need to move away from.
Right.
And what was so lovely is
Sorry,
you
sorry,
reblog.
Kardashian family. We're not trying to bombard you with
But like, and the other thing is, you would reblog me, even though I'd have like a 3-page poem. So you didn't just stick to one genre, although we knew what you felt passionately about. What I
Mhm.
find so incredible is I've probably worked on about, oh, I don't know, like 40 anthologies, quite a few. And it's a lot of work. And
Mhm.
what's really interesting, folks, is that Susie does the majority of the anthologies by herself. And if any of you have worked on anthologies, you will know that that is no walk in the park. That's some hard labor and graft. And you have to be pretty down passionate about something to do it. And she does. She does it all by herself. What we don't know is that she doesn't sleep. There has to be some way that she accomplishes this.
She
But
lies. She lies. I sleep a lot.
it's a lot of work though, and it really says a lot about your passion. Because I think the other thing is, having worked on a lot of anthologies, I've noticed that quite a few writers will write to me and say, well, aren't you just making loads of money off us? And they kind of have a suspicion, and I'm like, if you'd worked on an anthology, you'd realize there's no profit in it. You have to do it for the love of it, right?
Yes, because I think it's hilarious. I'm waiting for the day that IRS says to me when I file my taxes, "Hey, you've been losing too much money, and it's been years."
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing people don't realize, that, we're already struggling because a lot of people don't read. And then we're struggling because a lot of people don't read poetry. And then we're struggling because, people
They
don't have
don't
very
buy
much
books
money these days. So they're not buying books.
or
So,
Kindle.
yeah,
But
exactly.
but here's the thing: there are still a lot of
Yes.
people who are reading, and those
Yeah.
are the people I want to get.
Yes.
Because getting
Yeah.
back to your other point about what you were saying with you didn't understand how I could enjoy your poetry. I'm still a reader at heart. I'm still
Yeah.
a person who wants to get immersed. I'm
Yeah.
still a person who wants to be taken away to another place that you're describing. So yeah, I like your poetry. I love your poetry because it's just, I mean, you know what this is? This is like slobbering all over each other. This Seriously.
I was thinking of when, what is it, Sally Field gets up in the Oscars and says, "You like me?" We're showing our age now, but no, it's more than slobbering though, because I think what we're talking about is more than just you and me. Boring, but like we're talking about a bigger picture, which is essentially the value of readership and trying to sort of get people interested in other people. And what you said about some people might have a blog that only has 200 followers. I know at least 4 people that have a minute following, and they are some of the best poets I've ever read in my life. And I read poetry day and night for my job as well, as do you.
Right.
And it frustrates me on one level, but I also adore them because it means that they're not good at marketing. It just means they've got this raw talent and they're not good at marketing themselves. And I love people like that because they're genuine and unpretentious. So
Right.
for someone like you to create a platform for those kind of people, that's what we needed.
Right.
And that's what you've done selflessly. So, thank you for that. It's a big deal.
You. No, but okay, but seriously, we got to stop praising each other because it's really turning into this like.
But we can do another episode where that's all we do, folks. So if you want a mutual praise society, tune in next week at 5. But meanwhile, I'm going to get the giggles now, and it's just going to devolve from
All right,
here.
we got to stop.
Did you want me to read one of my poems from?
No, not yet. We're not done talking yet. Okay.
Oh, we're not done yet. Is that at the end? Oh shoot. Okay. I was all gearing myself up there.
Well,
so
if you
ask me.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
Do what you want. I just wanted to put an end to the Candy and Susie self-adoration society meeting right now.
I feel like that's just going to really work, and people actually want to see that instead. I really do. No, but seriously. And the other thing is, so like I was saying, I had the pleasure of like reading the anthology, and you do a nice job of. I didn't say brilliant. I controlled myself. I said nice, and I don't even like that word. But you did a nice job of putting very diverse writing together as well. I think that's really important. A lot of people, they have their preferences, don't they? And what you have is a very wide appreciation. And what you said earlier is really true. A lot of people who work in publishing don't actually read that much, which is hilarious, because I'll be like, "Hey, have you read this new book?" And they'll be like, "No."
No.
And you kind of have to, don't you think? If you work in this field, you have to read, and you have to read widely.
And it's not just widely, it's just being able to get inside the head of the writer. That's the whole point. It's like you really want to understand, because for me, that's really what life is about to me, is to get to know people, their stories, and understand how they manage to survive in a world that I sometimes have literally problems with.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like that. I like being able to really immerse myself in writing, whether it's long, whether it's short. I need to get inside that person's head, because for me, it's all about people. And this is the strangest part of it all. I'm an introvert. I'm a person who I could literally stay in my house forever. I mean, I do get out, but I could.
By the way, folks, if you're beginning to wonder how Susie Box could ever be an introvert, join the club. Because you're like the most outgoing introvert I've ever met. But I know, I hear you. And I know that there's that dichotomy in all of us to some extent, isn't there? And what I like is that you are so welcoming of different genres. You're not sort of wedded to one genre. I mean, I think I've been a real snobby so-and-so about genres. For the longest time, I only wanted to read kind of confessional poetry. And I was really sort of anti the sort of rule poetry. I guess it was because when I did my MFA, I had to do the rule stuff. And so I was doing a bit.
Stuff can be confessional too. This is the thing. I think it can be.
It can. I was a rebel without a cause. I was trying to be Picasso, where it's kind of like, okay, I know how to do all this stuff, folks, and now I'm going to do Cubist weird stuff. And that's kind of how I felt. But in doing that, I was cutting my nose off to spite my face, because there's some people who write, as you say, with a lot of rule-bound stuff, that just write as if they were as free-flowing as some maniac like me. And so I love that, because it teaches you that you can be kind of unbound within a rule structure, which you sort of think is a contradiction, don't you?
No, not really, because it's always about balance. You have to be able to find your middle
Exactly.
ground, and
Exactly.
also what teases out the best of you is kind
Yes.
of the way I look at it too. And I don't know, I just
That's
life
a really
is a
good way of putting
conundrum.
it.
What? I didn't hear that.
That's a really good way of putting it, because I think you're right. There's going to be something which teases it out of all of us, and we have to find what that sort of is. And for some people, it's actually, the poetry prompts, isn't it? For
Mhm.
other people, it's writing within a form, and for some
Right.
people, it's writing with no form. It's just what works for you. It's like when I trained as a dancer, I used to like to do interpretive dance. Shocker, and I didn't like so much of the rule bound dance, hence why I'm not a dancer today, because I wasn't that good.
You weren't
But
going to
that's,
play the game of the industry.
yeah, because that's my character. I'm just, I'm a renegade. And other people, they do so well within rules. But like you say, if they're really a brilliant writer, you can't tell that they're writing within a rule. It's as natural as something that I would write.
Mhm.
So I kind of admire that even more than people like me, because it's like to be able to write something that does feel free and unstructured, but is totally structured. How the heck do people do that? And you've got some really good examples of that in the book.
But that's the thing that's so intriguing to me, because I feel like what you're getting at, regardless of what is structured, unstructured, you're getting at the core of who that
Yeah.
person is and what they're trying to communicate, or what they feel, or what they see, what they're interpreting, whatever. I mean, I guess what for me and why it makes me feel so in such a good place is just because I want to get to the truth. Always. I mean, it's always about um God, I feel like I'm bumbling now. But
No, no, I know what you mean. So you're saying that essentially when you read something, you want the truth of it. So how does that work in terms of fiction? Like, what if somebody writes a poem that's fictional, or what if they write a fictional piece that's fictional?
but
How do you get to the truth of that? Do you feel like there's still a message within it because the individual is always writing their truth?
absolutely, because what they're seeing or what they're putting out on display is how they're seeing it, how they're imagining it, how they're thinking it's going to end, or how they think this story sounds, whatever, or looks like. And I
So it's
just,
essentially like perspective, isn't it? It's
yeah,
it's a perspective of an individual, even if they're writing fiction, that individual's perspective is still very omnipresent.
right. And here's the other
Yeah.
thing too. We keep talking about, we live in a society, I don't care if it's here in Europe, Russia, whatever, constraint is like the big word of the day. People are being oppressed, people are being constrained, they're put in a box, whatever you want to call it. And I think through writing and our interest in reading and how we actually move in the world, most people want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to be enjoyed for who they are. And I think in micro poetry, well, any poetry, let me put it that way. I think that you really can express that. You can actually show people who you are. And the ones who are really good at it, and I tell you, this is the reason why you and I became friends. I feel like you got to the heart of what was going on in my life and what happened in my past. I tuned into what you were talking about, and I could see you, because that was my life too. And I
Right.
made an instant connection to you. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who I know I can connect with immediately, and it's genuine and it's real. And so that's why our friendship blossomed. And you were able to put that in your writing. And
I think that's true. It's kind of a cool thing, isn't it? How you can go online and meet people you've never met before, you haven't met them in real life, and suddenly feel like closer to them than you do somebody you've known 10 years that you see more or less every day. And
yeah,
it's because, like you said, you release the mask and you don't have the constraint, and you're able to communicate at a more, I guess, intense, intimate level
yes.
than you would. And that's really what art is about, isn't it?
Hmm.
Art is a communication.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was talking to one of my oldest friends the other day in Europe, and I felt this real disconnect. And I thought, why are we disconnected? We've known each other for, years and years and years. And it's because sometimes it's very easy to disconnect, isn't it, in this world? Because we do have all that constraint on us, and we have distance, and we have distraction, and social media is a distraction. But just as it's a distraction, it can be an intimacy that garners these close, intense friendships that are real. Like some people say, you can never really know somebody who you've met online. Hell, you can.
Everybody, just so you know, we've never met. This is like what? Candy, tell me, like 3-4 times we've actually seen each other in like 6 years?
Because normally we talk on the phone and we don't necessarily look at each other's face, like, but because that is a little disturbing, isn't it? But we don't need to do that, or maybe we're introverting or whatever we're doing. So I'll call her up and I'll talk to her, but I don't necessarily stare at your nose, although you have a pretty nose. So
thank you very much.
So I do think, and I feel as close to you as some people who I see every day. So it is about that connection. And I agree with you completely. What's very cool though is when you're able to put an anthology together, that people can access that and kind of almost walk through a mise en scène of people that are all having these different thoughts and sort of get something from each one of them. That's almost the point of any anthology. And I feel you achieved it.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons it was called Reflections and Revelations, because as I was going through all the pieces, I felt like, oh, they're really divulging so much of themselves. And I don't know. I think this is I hope I can top this one, but it was really good this year.
I mean, that's kind of, to me, that's a sign that you've done something right. If you're able to say, God, I don't think I can top this one, then you're there. And the irony is when you do the next one, you're going to say the same thing. It's a very cool thing though. Like when I worked on the Kali project, I had absolutely no idea that it would turn into this really big deal. I thought it would be a big deal because I loved the idea, but I really didn't know what it would lead to. And what it led to that was very cool is a real appreciation of writers writing in a language that isn't their first language. I mean, I spoke French, that was my first language. Then I spoke Italian badly. Then I learned English badly. Now I don't have an American accent still after 20 years. It's really hard when you sort of speak multiple languages to really harness one language completely. And yet when I read a lot of the Indian poets, oh my God, I think they write better than native English speakers. And it's because
I would agree.
It's almost because they've had to overcome that hurdle, and then they find a new way of communicating that's very specific to their cultural heritage and their original language, and then the interpretation through English. And it's just so special. So when I'm editing an Indian writer, I don't want to necessarily change everything and make it kind of American English or make it English. I want to keep in the difference and not get rid of that unique sound. So that's why I don't really edit poetry that much. When I'm doing editing, I'm more editing things like the pattern of the poems or spelling, but I'm not editing the actual poem, because can you really do that? Can you edit somebody's poem?
You can't take away the context of it, or you don't want to actually, because you want the readers to pick up on that too. So I definitely get that. Like I have a lot of UK writers, and for them to take away how they spell things, I wouldn't do that, because I want that's their individuality that's showing through too, or whether their heritage or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And I mean,
I was going to say, hey, we need to cut it short
keep
here.
Keep our time.
No, I would love to keep talking to you, but for this particular interview, we've got 3 minutes, so I need you to read your
Lord. Okay. So the one I chose was Exalted Flay, and so I'll read that.
Okay.
Exalted Flay. Hear the sound of water being circled in machine, washing clean, our plates scraped raw in delight. Hear the rustle of forms out of focus, lying together with fright. How in intimacy stitch they need speak no words to convey. A joy as deep in lasting satiate, turning on exalted flay. Here our mortal call resolves its eternal ache to meet, a place of sanctuary for those who wander must also find their sleep. It's only pain, daughter. Okay, let's bring in the shame. Have a good look. Make it your friend. blaze, and fall loose on dancing hooks. We can't bear the suffering, so watch the flames die down to slender remembrances all in a row. We are golden, and then we are dull.
Mm. Very nice, very nice, very nice.
Wow, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, ma'am. Well, I appreciate you spending time with me in person.
And I'm not going to carry on my John Wayne accent because it sucks, but I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad you came on board. And also, I mean, you're part of the Short of It family now, which is cool. And then also you can continue to learn the art form of micropyetry. I can't talk today.
I see now. You're going to have that accent for the rest of your life. Oh my God, mine's horrific. I can't do an American accent, so we're not even going there. But no, I agree. And I have joined the dark side now. So prepare to see me there on a more regular basis.
The dark side. I'm honored. I'm part of the dark side. I like that. Even.
Anyway, I'll be looking forward to seeing all the other interviews because I think this is a great idea and there's a lot to be learned. So everybody buy this anthology when it comes out.
Yes. Hopefully within the next week. Actually, I've got all the formatting done. It's now uploaded and I have to make sure that everything looks great on KDP. We'll see. If it doesn't, then I got to go back and do everything. Oh my God.
Well, just so that you know, Susie's a perfectionist, so expect the best. It's going to happen. It does every other time.
I don't know if you noticed this or not, but in the last one we did, less than a minute. We got to go. I'll tell you about it later.
All right, then. Thank you very much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Candy.
Bye.
Bye. Now I got to figure out how to turn this off. Hold on. Bye.
Bye.